Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the end of the 2035 regular season. Successful regular season for the Royals, 103-59 record. Held off the Minnesota Twins by 3 games for the AL Central crown. Also held off the Twins by 3 games for the best record in baseball. So the Royals will have home field advantage for as long as we are alive in the postseason, as Kansas City tries to become the first team to repeat as World Series champions in 35 seasons. Last time it happened was the 98, 99, and 2000 New York Yankees. Has not happened since, but we're positioned as well as we could hope to be to hopefully end that long streak with no repeat winners over the next month or so. Had the best offense in the American League, 884 runs scored. Had the second best pitching staff in the American League with 674 runs allowed. As I mentioned earlier, had the best record in baseball, so we've got the home field advantage all locked up. Jonathan Ojeda, who was our number 1 draft pick just a season ago, brilliant rookie of the year candidate, and it would be hard to imagine that he's not going to be Rookie of the Year after leading the American League in home runs and finishing second in runs batted in. And our longtime excellent starter, Caleb Lagerwell, was second in the league in ERA, and Eddie Chavera, another starter, third in the AL with 16 wins. Historically, this Royals team has been built with pitching. And although Ben Borgman, coming off of a Cy Young Award-winning season, was injured all year and is now wrecked physically, he is theoretically healthy for the playoffs at this point. And you can see that Lagerwell, Chavera, and Bryce Hillman all had pretty solid seasons for us. So our 4 top starting pitchers are healthy and ready to go as the playoffs begin. So from that perspective, we're in a pretty good situation as far as injuries. We do definitely have one guy we'll be missing. Jose Garces suffered a career-ending torn rotator cuff about a month and a half ago. So his career is over after a nice year with us after we signed him as a free agent last offseason. 1.69 ERA and 37 and a third innings. But obviously we will be without him for the playoffs. Right now, we are going to turn to trying to figure out our postseason roster over the next few days and hopefully have our players get some rest before we host one of the teams that wins a wild card series in the ALDS. And I think we've got our potential playoff roster figured out, assuming that there's no injuries that crop up. As usual, we're going to cut the pitchers down to 12 because of the off days and go with an extra bat off the bench. Unfortunately for Bryce Hubbard, that meant that he's going to get left off the roster. Had a relatively mediocre year for us. Did pitch 148 innings, even though he didn't start a game, so he was a long reliever for us. But put up a 4.50 ERA in those innings, 110 strikeouts in 148 innings. You can see below average as far as his ERA plus and his FIP in a 460 Sierra, a replacement level player essentially. So moved him off of the staff, and the extra player that we brought up, maybe a little bit of a surprise, the young right fielder, Jorge Lebron, who spent the year mixed between AA and AAA, and then came up in the month of September where he hit 348 and 46 at-bats. He's not going to be starting for us, but he is a left-handed bat off the bench who certainly looks like he can be a pretty decent hitter at the major league level. Also is pretty fast, pretty good base runner, certainly a potential pinch runner to have in the arsenal for manager Bobby Crosby as he tries to lead us to another title. So that is the tentative roster at this point. No surprises with the players who are in the starting lineup. Arrighetto Laziosi seems like he's been replaced by Willie Flores at this point as our starting second baseman. So Laziosi coming off the bench, Rich Alvarado, another utility infielder off the bench, and then Jorge Lebron, as we just talked about, will also be a potential pinch hitter and backup outfielder for us coming off the bench here in the playoffs. And looking at the rest of the starting players, do have a couple of platoon situations. Angelo Bolden is going to start against right-handed batters at catcher. Leo Aguiar will continue to start against left-handed batters. Jonathan Ojeda, the first baseman. Willie Flores, the second baseman. Tony Fonseca, the shortstop. And Bobby Witt Jr., the third baseman. Right field against both lefties and righties, Victor Avellar, last year's Rookie of the Year. Center fielder against both lefties and righties, Angelo Velasquez. And then Alex Vasquez is going to DH against righties, but he's going to play left field against lefties. So what that means is that Javi Medina, the Rule 5 acquisition, is going to bat third and play left against right-handed pitching, while Mike McNeil, the youngster, is going to bat third and DH against left-handed pitching. So hopefully all of these players will see a little bit of action in the coming weeks, and hopefully it will be weeks rather than 1 week, because we'd certainly love to move on to an ALCS and potentially another World Series berth over the coming few days and weeks of sim time. And it looks like the Royals may have caught a bit of a break with the way the wild card series evolved. Minnesota, who we talked about, the second best team in baseball, we beat them by only 3 games in the AL Central this year. They were upset by the Guardians, which was the third team in the AL Central that made the playoffs this year. So probably a positive thing for the Royals that we get to host the 92-win Guardians rather than the 100-win Twins here in the opening game of the ALDS tomorrow. Just to be clear, though, we still would prefer that things were reseeded, which they're not in baseball, because the 91-win Angels are going to get to play the 79-win division-winning New York Yankees in the ALDS, because the Yankees, by virtue of having the division title, did end up winning the 3rd seed. So although it is a better matchup for us, theoretically, to be facing the Guardians rather than the Twins, the Angels are facing a team with a losing record, so we still have a tougher road ahead of us, at least theoretically, than the Angels do, to hopefully move on to the ALCS. And getting ready for Game 1 here at Kauffman Stadium, you can see the numbers certainly favor the Royals. We're 13-6 against division rival Cleveland this year. As we talked about, we were first in runs scored, second in runs against. They were middle of the pack, 7th in runs scored. They were tied 4th for the league in runs against. But certainly on paper, we look like a better team. Dave Geralt, who was 2-6 with a 4.48 ERA, 26-year-old, going to be on the mound for the Guardians. And Ben Borgman, who, as we already talked about, pitched just 6 games at the major league level, is now wrecked physically. He's always been relatively fragile, but he's coming off of a Cy Young Award-winning season. Obviously not going to be in contention for the Cy Young Award this year after pitching just 27 1/3 innings pitched. But our hope really here on the opening game of the playoffs for us in this 2035 season is that Borgman ends up pitching more innings in these playoffs than he did during the regular season. If we can get more than 27 1/3 innings out of him in the playoffs, it means that we're probably moving on into the World Series, and we're probably getting some pretty good starts from Borgman while he's on the mound. So that's our goal. We'll see if we can achieve that over the next couple of weeks, because if Borgman pitches more postseason innings than he did during the regular season, probably means there's a pretty good chance that we're going to end up as champions. So we will go ahead and simulate game one, and unfortunately, Borgman takes the loss. The Guardians beat the Royals 5-4, so the big advantage we had over them in the regular season doesn't prove to mean much in the playoffs. Borgman did go 6 innings, struck out 7 and only walked 1, but gave up 4 earned runs. You can see Nomar Funky Cold Medina and Felipe Tejada came on in relief. Not much offense for the Royals. 9 hits. Got some doubles from Medina, Fonseca, and Laziosi, and a triple from Flores. Looks like a big pinch hit double from Laziosi that drove in 2 runs, but it was not enough for us. Scored those 2 runs in the 8th, but then nothing going on in the 9th for either team, and the Guardians hold on for a 5-4 victory in game 1. So the pressure is quickly on the Royals here in the 2035 postseason. And so we'll move to game 2 of the series with the pressure on. This is as close as possible to a must-win we can have, because we're going to be on the road in the next 2 games in Cleveland. David Avila on the mound for the Guardians, 35-year-old, solid year, 14-11 record, 4.64 ERA over 198 innings pitched. The right-hander, hoping to score some runs off of him, and we have Caleb Lagerwell on the mound. We talked about him earlier, 15-7 with a 3.15 ERA, 190 strikeouts and 188 2/3 innings, 4.1 WAR and a 3.21 SIERA for us from the veteran right-hander. Would hope that we win this one. It seems like we've got the advantage in terms of the pitching matchups, and we are also at home, so feel like the Royals definitely need to get this game 2. And we did get the job done, 11-3 victory. Looks like that one was a bit of a rout. Ojeda, his first postseason home run for the potential Rookie of the Year, so that's good to see. Looking at the box score, Lagerwell was excellent. 7 innings pitched, only 3 hits allowed, 2 earned runs. Bob Williams came on in relief, kind of cleaned things up at the end. Some big offensive games for the Royals. Bobby Witt 3 for 5 with a couple runs scored. Alex Vasquez 4 for 4, 3 runs scored, 3 driven in. And then we already talked about Ojeda, who was 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, 4 ribbies, and the home run. So much better game 2 of the series for the Royals than game 1. And we're going to be moving on to Cleveland for game 3 of this series. We've just been doing a little scouting. Not going to spend a lot of time on that right now. We're focused on the postseason. And moving on to game 3, Eddie Chavera on the mound for Kansas City, second full year with us. He won 17 games last year, 16-10 this year with a 4.06 ERA. Good, solid major league pitcher, has gone over 200 innings pitched in each of his 2 seasons with Kansas City. Picked him up in the big trade with Philadelphia, where we gave away one of the top prospects in baseball a year ago. But as we talked about, we've already won a World Series championship with him, and hoping to make a long playoff run towards another one this year with him. So certainly pleased with that trade so far over the first 2 years we've had Chavera. He's going to be going against Ethan Hankins, 8-8 record with a 4.35 ERA for the right-hander. You can see his stuff is not exceptional, and he's really a 2-pitch pitcher. Kind of surprising that a playoff team has a guy with kind of a third pitch that is mediocre, or actually as poor as his slider in the rotation. So I would think that maybe they're using him as a kind of opener, and he's not going to pitch all that many innings. Although, 26 starts and 136 2/3 innings pitched, so he's going over 5 innings a start. It looks like they're using him as a legitimate starter, but I would say that the pitching matchup once again favors the Royals here in Game 3. Hopefully that means we'll get another W. And we do. Another relatively easy victory, 8-3. Bobby Witt Jr. with a homer. Jonathan Ojeda with a homer. Javi Medina, the youngster who we picked up in the Rule 5 draft, also with his first postseason homer. So big-time game for Kansas City. You can see Chavera was respectable, 3 earned runs over 5 1/3, but we got to Hankins early and often. He gave up 6 hits and 4 walks over 3 innings, which resulted in 6 runs scored. Choi and Bibbs came out of the bullpen. You can see big game for BW Jr. As we mentioned, Tony Fonseca also 3 for 3 with a couple runs scored. Ojeda and Funky Cole Medina also 2 runs scored each. So a good game for the Royals to kind of get back on serve in this postseason series and to reclaim home field advantage from the Guardians. Obviously, the hope is that we close the series out tomorrow and don't even have to face a potential elimination game in Game 5, even though it would be back in Kansas City. We'll check on the pitching matchups once we move ahead to the next day. Bryce Hillman going to be on the mound for Cleveland. He had a pretty solid first year for the Royals, so looking forward to see what he can do for us in his first playoff action with Kansas City. And it looks like we're going to be going up against Adam Littles, so we'll check in on him right now. Littles, certainly profiles as a decent major league pitcher. He's a lefty, which we haven't faced yet. Nice year, 16-8 with a 3.80 ERA. Put up a 3 WAR for the Guardians this year. So a pretty solid season for the 27-year-old Littles. Hillman, as I mentioned, first year with us after we traded for him from Pittsburgh. 16-10 record. The ERA of 4.89 definitely inflated. Sierra of 3.92, almost a run better, and still put up a 2.2 WAR. But this potentially looks like the most even pitching matchup we've had yet this series. Hopefully we can get the W and move on. And we do get a win, 7-1. So Kansas City moves on to the ALCS. You can see Tyler Bosma got the win in relief. Bobby Witt Jr., another home run. Victor Avelar, last year's Rookie of the Year postseason homer. And then Jorge Lebron, the youngster, came up at the end of the year, getting a little playing time here and hits a home run for us. And Bobby Witt Jr., who, if not for that long injury that he had this year, would be in the discussion for American League MVP. You can see he put up a 161 OPS plus, 161 WRC plus, and a 6.6 WAR in just 110 games. If he had played another 40-plus games for the Royals this year, hard to imagine that he wouldn't be right in the middle of the AL MVP race. But this will mark his fourth time that he's won the MVP award for a playoff series for us in his rapidly approaching Hall of Fame level career. Taking a quick look through the box score, Hillman was pretty solid as our starting pitcher, just 1 run over 5 2/3, but it was a pitcher's duel until the Royals broke things open in the 7th and 8th inning. So Bosma ends up getting the win, going 3 1/3 innings to close things out. He was our 5th starter for most of this year, so certainly no problem for him to go 3 1/3 innings for us. And we are going to await the matchup between the Yankees and the Angels to find out who we're going to be playing in the ALCS next week. And I don't know if I like my karma here, because it was just a few minutes ago that I was talking about how lucky the Angels were to be playing the 79-win Yankees in the ALDS, and now we're going to have to face those 79-win AL East champion Yankees here in the American League Championship Series. Over in the National League, NL West champions, the San Diego Padres, going to be going up against the wild card team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we are getting ready for Game 1 of the 2035 ALCS here in Kansas City. Actually, on paper, the matchup, or I guess not on paper, but on the computer screen, since we are in 2022 and not 1972. On the computer screen, the matchup looks a little closer than I would have expected. We actually split the season series with the Yankees, and they were third in the American League in runs scored, tied for sixth in runs against. So I'm guessing they probably got a little unlucky this year. Yeah, they got very unlucky, actually. Their plus 97 run differential was by far the best in the American League, and they finished 11 games below their Pythagorean expectations. So they were an extremely unlucky team, which is something that we have had in previous seasons with the Royals. But the Yankees may present a little bit more of a challenge than I thought they would when I saw that they were only 79 and 83 in the regular season, because you can't have much worse luck than they did. But they've gotten into the playoffs. They've won 2 series in a row, and now we have to hope that we can stop them. Pretty tough matchup for us pitching-wise. You can see Manny Rodriguez on the mound for the Yankees. 26-year-old, went 16-6 with a 3.76 ERA, struck out 237 in 206 innings. He did lead the American League in walks for the second straight year with 113 walks. So hopefully we can draw some bases on balls from him. Historically, though, that's kind of been one of the weaknesses of these teams that I've built with the Royals over the last several years. Just want to check in, and some of you probably already saw this because you've got better eyes than I do. But yeah, we were 14th in the American League in walks this year, so we are facing a pitcher who potentially can give up a lot of walks, but our Royals team is not all that great at drawing walks. So we'll see what kind of offense we can put up against Manny Rodriguez. Ben Borgman, our ace, is on the mound. In Game 1, 10-4 victory for the Yankees. Borgman gets the W. Rodriguez saddled with the loss. Alex Vasquez, Willie Flores, and soon-to-be Rookie of the Year, Jonathan Ojeda, all have home runs for your Kansas City Royals. We got to Rodriguez. He gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings with 6 hits, and we did walk 5 times against him. Borgman, excellent. 4 hits, no walks, only 2 runs over 7 1/3 innings. He's been excellent overall through his 2 games, although he did get the loss in that first game of the first round series for us against the Guardians. You can see got 2 ribbies from Witt Jr., Ojeda, and Victor Avellar. So pretty solid start to this ALCS for the Royals. Let's hope that we can win here on Game 2 and put a little bit of a stranglehold on the series. Caleb Lagerwell, one of the most clutch pitchers we've had over these years on the mound for us, going up against Caleb Gampy. So 2 Calebs up against each other. Gampy, a 33-year-old, split the year between Scranton and the big club. Did put up a 2.08 ERA with the Yankees, but that was just over 8 2/3 innings pitched. He was 9-4 with a 3.67 ERA at Scranton. So I'm guessing the Yankees may have had some injury problems late in their rotation, or perhaps in these last couple rounds of the playoffs, for Gampy to be pitching in the second game of the series. Hopefully I think the pitching matchup favors us. Hopefully that means we will end up with a victory here, and a 3-0 victory. So I'm guessing that was another brilliant postseason performance from Mr. Lagerwell. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts. He is Mr. Clutch, 2-0 in the playoffs this year. And not a ton of offense, 8 hits for the Royals. Got a double from Bolden and a home run from shortstop Tony Fonseca. When Fonseca's hitting home runs for you, you're going to feel pretty good about things, because he is in there for his gloves. So if he's hitting dingers for us, that's probably a good sign. And on to game 3, Eddie Chivera on the mound for the Royals, coming off of a nice second season with us. Jack Wenninger going to be on the mound for the Yankees. He's got a really nice profile, was 13-9 this year after coming to the Yankees from Milwaukee. 4.28 ERA, but a 3.34 Sierra and a 4.2 WAR. So Wenninger certainly looks like a big-time pitcher, a 4-time All-Star, and he also won a Cy Young Award in 2029. So a tough pitching matchup here for the Royals, and of course we're now in New York for the next 3 games, so would be a huge win for the Royals if we're able to get a W here. I think this one's going to be a tough one, and the Yankees do beat us 3-1 to narrow the deficit to 2-1. Neither of the starters involved in the decision, actually. Lead singer from Journey, I thought for a second, Arnel Pineda, but actually Al Pineda, their closer, gets the W for the Yankees in relief. You can see it was a 1-1 pitchers duel. The Yankees got 2 runs off of us in the 8th, and we were unable to come back. So Wenninger pitched well, striking out 11 over 7 innings. Chivera also pitched well, only 1 earned run allowed over 6 2/3. But Min-Ho Choi, one of the relievers that we brought on for this year as a free agent signing, had a relatively mediocre year for us, 4.11 ERA over 46 innings pitched, and certainly was not clutch in this playoff game. So the Yankees, in front of a capacity crowd in Yankee Stadium, closed the deficit to 2-1. Hopefully we can get things back on track tomorrow. And we're going to have Bryce Hillman, 16-game winner, on the mound. Merrick Sears on the mound for the Yankees. Looks like he's got a nice solid profile, 33-year-old. 7-14 this year, 4.73 ERA, but he gave up a 3.18 BABIP, and he put up a 3.45 Sierra, so probably a pitcher who was a little bit unlucky. Also a lefty, so we'll have a different lineup against him. Let's hope that we can get control of the series back. Would certainly love to be up 3-1 rather than tied 2-2 heading into Game 5. And we do get the victory, a 7-3 win for the Royals. Javi Medina, picking him in the Rule 5 draft and keeping him on the roster all year, despite him not ever having been above A-ball, is potentially going to be a really important decision for this team, because you can see he's developed and he's actually better than we even thought he was going to be when we could pick him up. Certainly if Cincinnati, if it looked like he had this kind of potential, it's probably less likely that they would have let him go. But he had a really good year, 287 batting average, 20 homers, 68 ribbies, a lot of seasons. That's good enough to be in the discussion for Rookie of the Year, but obviously he's not going to be there with the brilliant season that Jonathan Ojeda had for us. But Medina with another home run. You can see Hillman was very good, 1 run over 6 innings. Bosman gave up a few runs, and Tejada came on to pick up the save. So we're going to be now heading to Game 5, and once again, the Royals have an opportunity to clinch things on the road. As much as we'd love to give our fans opportunity to cheer for us in person in Kansas City in a Game 6 or a Game 7 and earn a little bit extra ticket revenue, still would hope that we can just get this series over today. Rodriguez has not been great in the playoffs, 0-2, but 16-6 record. The story with him again is going to be whether we can draw some walks from him, and also whether we get another nice performance from Ben Borgman. And Borgman not involved in the decision, but a 6-3 win for the Royals. Alex Vasquez, your series MVP, got a homer from Bolden. Flores and Javi Medina, another home run. So the Royals are headed back to the World Series for the 2nd consecutive season. And we are now going to be just 4 wins away from becoming the first team to repeat since that Yankees dynasty in the late 90s through 2000. Borgman only 4 2/3 innings pitched, kind of run up against his pitch limit, or he probably would have been in the mix for the win because we did get 4 runs in 5 innings off of Rodriguez. Medina looks like he got the W, hold for Bibbs, and a save for Felipe Tejeda. A couple ribbies from Medina, a couple ribbies from our catcher, Angelo Bolden. And the Royals are off to the World Series. Just a matter of whether we're going to be going up against the Dodgers or the Padres. So hopefully we will figure that out shortly. Should get an email here showing us Vasquez's numbers. 450 batting average, 500 on-base percentage, 1 homer, 3 ribbies, and 6 runs for Vasquez in the 5-game victory. And it looks like we are going to be playing San Diego, so they beat the Dodgers 4-1. World Series going to be starting 4 days from now, so both teams are going to have plenty of opportunity to set their rotations the way that they want. And the 2035 World Season is here. So the Kansas City Royals are looking to repeat. And we are facing the Padres, who we actually beat back in the 2031 World Series, the second championship that we won in this playthrough. So a rematch of the World Series from 4 years ago, as we try to win a back-to-back title with the Royals and our 4th title overall in this playthrough. We did take the season series against the Padres. It was only a 3-game series, so not a lot of meaning in that. They were 10th in the National League in runs scored with 744, but have an excellent pitching staff. Second in the National League, only 669 runs allowed, which was even fewer runs than the Royals allowed. So runs could be difficult to come by in this series. Hopefully the Royals' strong offense will end up being a difference. You can see we've got a tough matchup here in Game 1. Oscar Romero, 17-11 record, 221 strikeouts over 229 1/3 innings pitched, put up a 3.22 ERA for the Padres. Was named to his first All-Star team at 26 years old, and he's 2-0 with a 1.33 ERA in the playoffs. Going up against Caleb Lagerwell for us, who's been excellent in his first 2 games this postseason. The hope, obviously, is we get at least one more excellent outing out of him this postseason, and hopefully we get it today. And we do get a win, but you can see Angelo Velasquez with an oblique strain out for a week. So certainly not optimal to be done with our excellent center fielder. Had a really nice year for us, 310 batting average, 35 stolen bases, put up a 108 OPS plus, 109 WRC plus, and a team best 6.6 WAR, well, tied with Bobby Witt Jr., I think, team best. You can see he's got outstanding range, certainly should be in the mix for a Gold Glove in center field. So certainly losing Velasquez is going to leave a bit of a hole in our offense, and it's going to leave a really big hole in our defense because we don't have a great player to play center field with him gone. So that's going to leave us with some decisions to make. But before we get into those decisions, let's take a look at Game 1. 7-4 victory. Got a home run from Ergetto Laziosi, probably a pinch hit home run from him. So that could have been a really, really big hit for us. 7-4 win. Lagerwell, very good. 9 strikeouts, 2 earned runs over 6 2/3. You can see his ERA for the playoffs is 1.83. He's been the winning pitcher in each of his starts. Williams in relief. Golemon, who's actually been pretty disappointing for us since we made the trade for him at the trade deadline. He put up, as you can see here, a 7.11 ERA in just 6 1/3 innings for us after we traded for him from the Yankees. He was used as a right-handed specialist out of the bullpen by Bobby Crosby and didn't really do a great job in that role. Jesus Bibbs in relief, and then Felipe Tejada, our closer, gets the saves. So big win for the Royals here to take game 1 of the World Series. With Velasquez probably gone for the next week, we may be looking to put him on the IL and bring up someone to replace him. As I talked about, I don't know that we've got a great defensive center fielder on the team, so we are going to suffer a bit of a hit with him gone. Javi Medina with that 55 range and 50 error hasn't played center field before. Obviously, just picking him up and bringing him right to the majors. If we had him in AAA or AA or single A this past year, probably would have been training him a little bit in center field to improve his versatility. Don't know that we want him to try to learn the position on the spot in the World Series. Alex Vasquez, definitely not a center fielder with that 40 range. Victor Avelar, 50 range, 45 error. Not all that good defensively at the position, though. Not the answer there. Jorge Lebron could play it if we need him to. 55 range, 45 error, 55 arm. We have, trained the youngster up enough that he can play all 3 outfield positions, but in the grand scheme of baseball, he's a bit below average as a center fielder. And then Mike McNeil, not all that great at playing the position, even though his numbers are not really that much worse. The other option is Willie Flores, who's starting at second base for us right now. But if you look at his ratings, he's got the 65 range, 60 error, and 80 outfield arm. So I'm leaning towards we probably move Flores to center field. That will let Laziosi, who just hit the big home run for us, slide back into second base. Probably weakens our offense a little bit because we're going to be putting in Laziosi as a hitter as opposed to potentially someone like Jorge Lebron. But I would rather have a pretty capable defensive center fielder out there for us. So I think right now what we are going to do is go to Mr. Flores, and we are going to force start him as our center fielder. Take a look at our lineups now and have Bobby Crosby update those. You can see, as I thought, that moves Laziosi into second base against both righties and lefties. I think that gives us the best team we can. We've talked a lot in the past about how I love Flores just because he's so versatile defensively and so good defensively. And I don't love the fact that Velasquez's season is probably over with a week left with that oblique strain. But Flores at least gives us a competent defensive center fielder to hopefully help our pitching staff over the remainder of this World Series against the Padres. And we did move to the injured list Angelo Velasquez. So I guess theoretically there's a chance he might be back for a game 6 or 7 with the days off, but would rather have someone to help us now. The issue is that we put Billy Dominguez on the team, since with Flores moving to center field on an everyday basis, felt like we needed another utility infielder. Unfortunately, Dominguez is banged up with a bruised collarbone, so he's going to be out for one more day. But hopefully no need to play him in this game 2. And then by game 3, after another day off, he'll be ready to go in case we need a little extra depth in the infield. Obviously got Fonseca at short, Witt Jr. at third, Laziosi at second, Ojeda at first, and Rich Alvarado, and now Billy Dominguez will be our backup infielders for the rest of the season at this point. So another good performance from Lagerwell. Got the win in game one. Obviously don't love the fact that we lost Angelo Velasquez, but those are the breaks here. We are still 3 wins away, and hopefully get a win here in game two at home before the series moves out to the West Coast to San Diego. Borgman, our erstwhile ace, is on the mound, 1-1 record with a 3 ERA in the postseason. You can see another one of Kansas City's good pitchers on the mound. June Young Park, 2-0 with a 2.02 ERA in the postseason, and had a really nice regular season for them, 16-8 with a 3.11 ERA, pitched 234 innings. So looks like we're going to have a very nice pitching matchup here, and he is a 2-time Cy Young Award winner over in Korea before he came to the U.S. A couple seasons ago for the Padres. So another brilliant pitching matchup. Let's hope that we can get another victory here in game two. And we do. Close game, 4-3. Looks like Bosma got the win in relief. Tatis Jr. hit a homer for the Padres. Fonseca and Javi Medina with home runs for the Kansas City Royals. Borgman, solid. 2 earned runs, 7 hits. 2 earned runs and 7 strikeouts over 5 innings. Medina and Goleman, not great in relief. Choi came on and stabilized things, and then Bosma with 3 innings to earn the win in relief. Scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. Tony Fonseca, the shortstop, with his second big home run in this postseason. 2-run walk-off in the bottom of the 9th to give the Royals a 2-0 lead before we head out west to Petco. So, huge win for the Royals here, and we are now 2 wins away from a potential repeat. So getting close to a potential title with the Royals, but we've still got, I'm sure, some tough games against us with these San Diego Padres here in Game 3 out in San Diego. Eddie Chivera, number 3 starter on the mound for us. He's going to be going up against Jack Fecco, who's 0-1 with a 7.45 ERA in the playoffs, so hasn't been all that effective. But he was pretty darn good during the regular season, led the National League with 20 wins, not a number that you see very often in baseball these days. 20-5 record, 3.48 ERA. So he had an excellent regular season for the Padres. He is an extreme fly ball pitcher who doesn't throw all that hard and doesn't have a ton of movement. So he gave up 21 homers in 196 2/3 innings. Given those ratings, that's not horrible. I would think that he could give up more home runs than that. So perhaps out in Petco, we'll be able to hit some homers off him. Certainly hope that we keep the offense rolling here in Game 3. And we do with a 9-2 victory. Only got 1 home run from Mike McNeil. So a lot of the youngsters getting some action, and it's nice to see him hit a postseason home run, take a 3-0 lead. Chivera got the win. Tatis Jr. did hit another homer in a losing effort for the Padres, but the Royals are officially on the brink at this point of a title. Chivera was very solid, 9 strikeouts, 2 earned runs over 6 innings. Jesus Bibbs and Felipe Tejada, who are both players that we added to the pitching staff in the offseason, combined for 3 innings of scoreless relief to close things out. 3 runs driven in by Laziosi, who, as we talked about, is starting at second base only because of the injury to Velasquez, which puts Flores into center field, but he's hit some big hits throughout the playoffs. Talked about the home run from McNeil already. Also got runs driven in from Vasquez, the aforementioned Flores, and then a couple of pinch hit run batted ins for Rich Alvarado and Billy Dominguez. So we took out Fonseca early. We're pinch hitting for him. And then Dominguez came in and played short. And they both, I guess it wasn't a pinch hit at bat for Dominguez at that point. He was playing shortstop. But Crosby taking out our potential Gold Glove winning shortstop to pinch hit for him, putting in someone who's not as good defensively to play short for those final few innings. But they both got hits in their only at bats. And Dominguez actually scored 2 runs because he also walked once. So Bobby Crosby definitely pushing on a lot of different levers to get that win in Game 3 for the Kansas City Royals. And we are now just 1 game away from a repeat. Don't want to jinx ourselves by talking about it, but no excuses if we don't get it done now. Bryce Hillman, 16-10 on the mound for us, going up against Ezekiel Vildasola, 27-year-old, 11-15 record with a 4.71 ERA this year. Did strike out 205. You can see his SIERA of 3.49 and his WAR of 2.7 indicates he's probably was a somewhat more effective pitcher than he may look like. Did have a 309 BABIP against him, so we'd love to have a 309 BABIP against him here in Game 4 of the World Series. And we probably had more than that. 10-6 victory for the Kansas City Royals. And we have swept out the San Diego Padres. And we have also repeated as World Series champions. So this playthrough through 14 seasons has gone about as well as we could have hoped. 10 playoff appearances, now 4 World Series championships. We've won the AL Central 9 of the last 10 seasons, and we've now won the World Series 3 of the last 5 years. So one of our goals from ownership has been to turn it into a dynasty. I don't know that we've technically done that yet, but with 3 titles in 5 years now for the Royals and back-to-back championships here in 34 and 35, certainly getting close to the point where we could use the D word to describe these Royals. You can see a ton of offense. Bobby Witt Jr., Jonathan Ojeda, and Javi Medina all with home runs. Arrighetto Laziosi, who only playing regularly because of that injury in Game 1 to Angelo Velasquez, ends up winning the World Series MVP award after a pretty miserable regular season where he hit just 211 in 204 at-bats, suffered a couple of significant injuries, and ultimately lost his starting second baseman job to Willie Flores. But now for the second time in his career, in his relatively young career, he's been the MVP of a playoff series and just won his second World Series. Taking a little bit deeper look at the box score, you can see we were down early. We scored a run to start things off, but then San Diego took a 4-1 lead in the 4th, and they led 6-3 after 5, but we came through with 5 runs in the 7th. Hillman was not good, 11 hits, 6 earned runs over 4 innings. But after that, Bob Williams, Nomar Medina, Reed Goleman, Jesus Bibbs, and then Min Ho Choi combined to allow no earned runs and no runs at all over those last 5 innings that they pitched. So they really stabilized things, allowed our offense to kind of come back. And you can see the youngster Javi Medina with 4 runs driven in had that 3-run home run in the 7th inning, which was clearly one of the key moments in this game, because that is probably the hit that gave us the lead. And then we went on to tack on runs in the 8th and 9th before shutting things down. So can't ask for a better season than 2035 was for the Kansas City Royals. Best record in baseball, and we have now won the World Series for a second consecutive season. So, best record and a back-to-back World Series championship. Can't get any better than that. And as we move to the off season, apparently 3 championships in 5 years does qualify as a dynasty because we've completed that owner goal. So good to have the dynasty achieved. And we've also completed all of our owner goals this year. They had another goal for us to make a ton of money this year, which we weren't going to do unless we went on a long run in the playoffs. And with all of the postseason revenues, we got that done. So World Championship for the Royals and a 1126 out of 1,000 season score. So as I talked about, can't hope for anything better than that. So pretty excited that we finally got a repeat with these Royals and turn the team into a dynasty in meeting our owner goals. So excellent season from the Royals. I can't ask for anything more, right? And as we get ready for the off season to begin, just a few things to cover before we finish up the episode. Jose Garces, we did have an option year decision on him, but you may remember that he also suffered a career-ending injury, so he's decided to retire, so we don't need to make that decision. We do have an option on Min-Ho Choi, who, as we talked about, was not that great for us this year and also was the losing pitcher in one of our 2 playoff losses. We actually had a pretty good run through the playoffs, lost 1 game in the ALDS, 1 game in the ALCS, and then we swept the World Series. So not sure if we want to be spending $6 million a year on him. That'll be one of the first decisions we need to make in our next episode. Goal was to win the championship, which we did. Goal was to increase profit, so he's pleased that we won a World Series ring and also did a good job financially. Thrilled with the team, 2 for 2 with World Series wins in the last 2 seasons. He thinks we're one of the great teams of all time and now wants us to be known as the greatest team of all time. So he's very happy with our performance. New set of goals to reach the playoffs. He wants us to upgrade at second base, even after Willie Flores had a nice year for us, and then Aragetto Laziosi won the World Series MVP playing at second base. He still wants us to do better there, though, and he wants us to win another championship in the next 4 seasons. The budget is going to be up to $270 million, so that's really been the key thing when I think about this playthrough. So that's an $8 million bump for next season. So that's fortunately going to enable us to hopefully get ourselves into even better financial position. But, the way that we've been able to steadily increase this budget over the years has been real critical to the success that we've had. And to have even more money next year means, hey, we're going to try to go for the three-peat. As I mentioned, Garces retiring. Pitching coach George Fennell retired from our rookie level club. That's not great news because he was a pretty good pitching coach. Got a contract extension for 4 years at $1.5 million a year from Isaiah Moore. So I think that's only a very tiny bump, actually. I'm guessing, given that we've now got we've had a legendary reputation for a while. As I talked about, 10 playoff appearances in 14 years, now 4 world championships. Not that the amount of money that we're paid really matters all that much, but I would think that you can't get paid any more than that by a team like Kansas City because with the track record we have put up, you would think that he would want to keep us around. We are losing our manager of one of our Arizona teams, Eric Smith. We knew that was coming. We didn't offer him an extension, so that was fine. Top prospects, we do not have any of the top prospects. Maxime De La Cruz, who we didn't talk about explicitly, but he is the top prospect that we did trade away to bring on Eddie Chavera to the team a couple years ago, and now we're 2-for-2 winning championships with Eddie Chavera. On A-ball this past year, he hit 312, 10 homers, 34 doubles. So he had a pretty nice year in A-ball for them, but I'm certainly not going to regret that trade with 2 world championships in a row. And you can see that although the contact for De La Cruz still remains a potential strength, his power is kind of going to be average-ish, maybe a little bit above average. Don't think he's going to end up with a great eye or great at avoiding strikeouts. He's not great defensively, and he doesn't have a ton of speed. So certainly a good major league player. And, depending on how he develops, he could potentially be a very good major league player, still the number 10 prospect in baseball, but I'm definitely not second-guessing that trade at this point. So another title for the Kansas City Royals. In our next episode, we're going to dig deep into our arbitration decisions, figure out what we are going to do with Min-Ho Choi, and then also going to find out who wins the postseason awards. The one thing that I am pretty confident of is that Ben Borgman will not be repeating as a Cy Young Award winner after pitching just 27 1/3 innings this season. But I'm pretty confident that we are going to have a repeat Rookie of the Year. You remember Victor Avelar won the Rookie of the Year last year when he led the league in runs batted in. And Jonathan Ojeda this season has led the American League in home runs. So it would absolutely be an upset if he does not win the Rookie of the Year award. But we will find all of that out in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.